Oh, there we are. Now we're bonding. Yay. All right, let's get to it. So in regards to the ES, and let's go to a 5, you have the end of the quarter. You have an enormous collar that's going to unwind to JP Morgan today. And you also have a possible government shutdown. So from my perspective in looking at this, you have a tremendous amount going on, like a tremendous amount going on today. And it's definitely of interest to me on, hold on one second here. I'm trying to figure something out. Give me 1 second, guys. Give me one. Sorry about this. All right, so let's get to it. So I think that at the end of the day, you're really going to have to just kind of watch how this plays out in this little bit of an area and really go from there. I mean, I don't really see much to do with it. I really don't. I just don't see a tremendous amount that you have to really do there. I think you're better off letting this whole day just kind of like chill out. I think rushing into anything is going to be an absolute dumpster fire until you get some real clarity. You have a bunch that you have to unwind. Okay. All right, guys. Hold on 1 second. Let me turn the sound off now. So that should be better. So for me, looking at some of these things, it really makes a lot of sense and how it's playing out. And I don't think there's much more to say or to do here. I really don't. Like, let it settle in, man. Let this all settle in. I think today is going to be absolutely unequivocally a wild, wild day. And I don't know that you really need to do a whole heck of a lot here. I think you're much better off just letting it all settle down and going from there. Now, the one thing that I think is super important is what happens if they don't have a government shutdown. I actually think that you're going to see some of these metals really crack hard. I actually think you're going to see some of these metals really crack very, very hard. And go from there. But I mean, I really do. I think that's a big issue. I think it's a bigger issue than people think it is. I'm trying to think what else is really important. I think that not only the government shutdown, but what happens like the week later. So you have this little put level right here on the SPY, and this is where our call level is. I'm pretty sure that it was there this morning, but it does change. So I'm just going to look at it, and you really haven't changed at all on where stuff is. You're really at that 655. Like, I don't think you're going to break this at all. I don't think you have a shot at breaking this. But if you got down to here today, like if things got goofy, this is definitely the area where you want to look at, like, that you should hold in here. Put a little alert down there. You should hold that area pretty nicely. As far as these other areas, I don't know that there's a tremendous amount. I have a tremendous amount going on in this whole space between 665 on up, but I don't know that there's a lot here. I'm just looking at it. Like, I don't know. I don't know that you're going anywhere past this. Like, it just seems to me that the unwind's going to be wild, and I'll leave it at that. I don't know that you're going to get past the 667.50 to the upside, and I don't know that you'd be breaking this. So I don't see this huge movement in the market today. I just see it unwinding and massive volatility. And that's really, I'm more interested in buying here, and then I'd be more interested in selling up here than anything, than trying to get involved. I don't think it makes sense to really go goofy here. I truly don't. You have too many moving parts. And, if you're just looking at it from a day trading perspective, if you're looking from a day trading perspective, that's how I'm looking at this. If you're looking at it from like a swing or a quarterly perspective, I still think you might want to kind of like just kind of chill out a little bit, because we really don't know, where we're going with this. Like, we really don't know what this unwind's going to look like. I don't have a clue what we're going to see with the government shutdown. Are they going to shut it down? Are they not going to shut down? Like, if you're going to go, and let me use that one instead, and don't use this one. If you're going to go and say that, oh, what's going to happen, you're smarter than me. Like, I've watched this stuff play out so many times where it's the Democrats, it's the Republicans. No, it's you. You got paid to do a job. Do your freaking job. Like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. They're like freaking children. So I can't stress it enough. Like, to sit there and like they act like they didn't know that this was coming. So every day we have to deal with this kind of garbage. But from my standpoint, to think that you are going to be able to predict how this is going to go today, I just don't see it that way. So whenever I see this kind of stuff, for me, let's put this one here. So this is really where your put wall is. And I think that there's a lot of puts down here. So let me just throw that out there and drop that down. Then let me just put this here. And hold on one second. Hold on. I'm going to do? I'm going to just clone this bad boy. And then I should be, okay. So you're going to give me that, which is not what I wanted. Here he goes again, using them internets. I really think that's your level. I don't think you're getting through that today, man. I could be wrong. Maybe when they take the gloves off, hey, maybe everything will go great. Maybe the JOLTs numbers will be fantastic. Maybe the Republicans and Democrats will hug it out today, and we won't have a shutdown. And maybe cats and dogs will love one another. I don't know. And maybe the JP Morgan collar won't be a big deal. And then I've got some swamp land if you're looking for land as well. So there's no way that that's all going to go well. Like, there's just too many variables. Something's going to kill us, and I just don't know what it is today. And then we'll figure it out later. And then I just saw something about iron ore and China not shipping iron ore anymore. So we got that little suck salad. We got to figure out what's going on there and how that's going to affect things. NQ, very similar to that level. What I would say is this is just, another genius move by me to mark off the peak VWAP and just watch how that peak VWAP is holding. So as long as you're above it, I am leaning towards being a dip buyer, right? So if I start cracking that, like if I pop that, pop goes the weasel goes pop, then I would become concerned. But I will still be interested in being a dip buyer as long as we're still trading above that peak VWAP. I would. I'm trying not to laugh at something. At least I think I'm funny. All right. So that's kind of how I see it. I'm more interested in taking names today because I didn't do a lot of that yesterday. And I think it would be a really good day to take names because there's a lot going on out there, like a lot. And I'd rather take names from you and then go from there. And this is like, I feel like I'm in the sun. Am I in the sun? Is it like super bright? No, it's actually not that bad. Okay, cool. Let's do questions today. And I'll just start doing some like randoms too. I'll jump around. So what's up, John? Riot Mara, I don't have any interest in. I really don't. I think that they're like, I truly don't think that they're the names that you should be focused on here, like at all. I get it. I see it. And everyone's like all giddy again because they're going to become, like HPC AI companies too. I don't think it really works that way. You have to look at their structure to see if that's really where this is going. It's not for me. They're actually lifting because of this and because they're in this, right? And so if you understand why they're lifting, why not just buy the names that's lifting that? Like, this is the name that's lifting it. They have a secondary. Did that secondary price yet? Because once that secondary prices, that's going to be the bee's knees. So let's go take a look at that. Boom, 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 boom. I know they did a secondary. Didn't they announce a secondary? Am I wrong? Maybe they didn't do a secondary. I swear to God, they announced that they were doing a secondary. Got a bunch of up stock targets on it of $15 today by Needham and Concordia. So they must have done a secondary somewhere, right? A lot of people raising that today. In the past couple of days, Rosenblatt raised it. Compass Point. Yeah, here it is. September 25th. Prices 1.1 billion convertible. Okay, they priced it on the 25th. Announced the pricing of a 1.1 convertible due private offering. The offering size was increased. Note 0 interest. Initial conversion, 1,000 principal conversion at 16. Okay, so 16 is your overhead. So 16 is your issue. So that's going to be your overhead here because that's your conversion price. So it priced on the 25th. And where did we stop? So we stopped on the 25th this day. And so you probably do have some kind of like bottom in that name. That might be the one to look at if you get pullbacks on it. Let's go take a look at this. I love when we can do stuff together. I actually think like these are the ones that you should be looking at, after they do the secondaries and everybody's like all happy, right? And now they're all happy. They got their secondary done. Yay. Because you usually tend to gravitate towards back where you were before then. And then what happens from there is anybody's guess. But you're starting to shape up in there. That might be interesting. Today, that might be like one to look at. I own this one, and I've done quite well with it. I don't know that I have to really, sweat it on this one. And then I own this one too, which I think is just best in class, frankly. So, and they all decided to jump this morning for some godforsaken reason. I'm not really sure why. Something must have hit at 8:30 that made these like really move, right? So I guess I'll read about it at 8:30. But there must have been news that moved them. So they all jumped all at the same time. But I like that one the most. What else you got? Spy. What's so interesting about this W is that all we keep hearing about is how it's going to blow up because of tariffs. The tariff game is going to kill them. It's going to kill them, the tariff game. Okay. Someone should tell them because since then it's gone from 20 to 90. So meanwhile, we keep hearing how tariffs are going to destroy them, but they sell what they sell. Like they don't see like something like RH ships out and gets the manufacturing, right? And then takes the product and then sells the product under their name, right? God, that was such a great trade. Wow, that was such a great short. But W just whatever they want to sell, they just sell on the site. So I think that that's a very different kind of game, and then go from there. All these names that are like this, that are those drop that right there. All those names that are like this, that are those application names, based upon AI, they're just going to get way, way more efficient. And that's really how I would view them. They're going to get way more efficient. And that's really how I say it. I wouldn't think about it any more than that. So, is today your day? I don't know, man. When I have days like today, when I have this many variables, oh, good, we lost the camera. Freaking $800 camera. It's good for like 10 minutes. I use the $20 camera and it's perfect. It's never issues. Anyway, so if we look at something like this, for me, I really think the rub here is today the day. Do you have to do it today? If you're thinking you have to do it today, I would say no. But like these little breakouts and how efficient these companies are going to get is going to be insane. You've got no vol at all on that breakout, man. Like none. I don't know that that's the one that I would do. Unless I had volume, John. I'm leaning towards this unwind is going to be a bloodbath, but I always think everything's going to be a bloodbath, and then it's not. But it saves me a lot of money in thinking that way. I always think it's going to be a bloodbath. I tend to look at this stuff like, okay, like here, like even this when it broke out, I'm like, all right, well that's the breakout. Here's your breakout, and you're breaking out of that 100, and but some of these things, like you really have to you're going for a ride, man, on a lot of these names. So whenever I see that, like kind of this here, I'll show you what I mean by this. So whenever you see these names, right? Like even, they take these names, pardon me. See how tight everything is? And then you get this massive volatility that starts. Yeah, you have your down moves, whatever. But when you start seeing that, that's when I start getting nervous. So like, you don't have it so much in here, but if you looked at some of these other names, like the volatility of the market is really kicking in. And when you start to see that kind of stuff, not so much like in here, you're getting it too, which is interesting. But like when you start seeing this stuff consolidate, it's interesting. When you start seeing the market have like these wild moves, especially leading names, you got to become concerned. And these quantums were definitely leading, right? Now, I don't see it really going on in the drone space that much. The drone space is just, going sideways and trading around. But you're starting to see it in these kinds of names like OKLO, and they all ran up and then they came back down. And then LEU the other day, opened at like 310, went to 340, then collapsed, and yesterday's at 300. Like there are massive moves going on, right? 10, 15% in these names is like nothing. So if you look at something, and I'll just like, this is a leading sector. I'll show you what I mean by this, Julian. Let's get rid of that for a sec, right? But if you were to look at how tight that is, and then it breaks out, and then it's supposed to consolidate, that's not what you're getting. See how it consolidates, right? And then it gets wild and then consolidates, right? That's not wild, but this is wild. So why is that important? Because that's how the market goes. So like when you have this kind of behavior, let me show you. So like if you have something like this, and I'm talking about volatility, this is not a chart. It's a chart of volatility. And then all of a sudden you start seeing this kind of stuff on that chart, you're usually setting up for a change in trend. And so that's the one thing that's got me concerned about it, because I'm like, man, this stuff's not really consolidating. It's kind of getting wild. So when we see that, you kind of have to go, all right, well, we could be setting up for a change in trend, or maybe just going to consolidate. But you just got to watch it. Like how many times is NVIDIA going to hit this level and not break it, right? And then you start watching some of these other leading names like, AVGO, like that can't get up off the ground, but everyone's going to buy AMD. No, they're getting squeezed on AMD, right? The shorts are getting squeezed. Like IREN, for lack of a better term, didn't just turn into like this monster company, like it consolidated. And now up here, you're going from 50 to 40, you're having 20% moves in 24 hours. So when you start to see that kind of stuff, to me, it's always like, hey, I better put the brakes on and just kind of chill out for a little bit. That's how I say it. So do we squeeze or do we sell off? It's like asking me, do we not have a government shutdown today? I don't have an answer to it. I don't. So I tend to think about it and go, all right. So if you walk through it, you're not getting world peace today. The Democrats and Republicans are going to continue to fight and point fingers at one another because they think it scores points on everybody. It doesn't. It makes them look stupid. So then what happens there? All right. So they're going to shut down the government for a period of time. You're not going to, then you don't get the data on BLS. So JOLTs data today might carry more weight at 10 o'clock, right? So you might want to watch the 10 o'clock level because JOLTs is coming out and will carry more weight today. But I don't have an issue to how all this gets done. And I don't know what the heck happens with that JP Morgan, that collar that's going to unwind today for like a bloody fortune. So, and the other thing I just want to point out is if you go to last quarter and you look at the S&P from here over, right? So you go look up here in this area. This was, July 4th weekend, but still you had massive moves before the end of the quarter right here. Like it was nuts. And I don't see any reason. And then you had all these gaps in the chart in this. We had undercuts the next day, and then we rallied. Then we ran up on this day, and then we collapsed by the end of it. Like end of quarter last time, what was the range on the S&P? What is that? Like you had a 1.3% range. You can easily have a range like that today. So, for me, it's like head on a swivel. When they pop up, sell them. And then when they come back down, start looking and see if they hold their support and put levels. And then it is what it is. Wash, rinse, repeat. That's really how I'm going to play it. Yeah, the Sats is super interesting because if they keep selling their product, see, I don't know if they're selling or licensing. So I'm talking out of turn. But I think that what's starting to happen here is people are starting to get it. Like if you keep selling what you have, at some point, there's nothing left, right? YCBD. I have no idea what this thing is, dude. I don't have a clue. I wouldn't go near this thing with a 10-foot pole. I mean, I would never go near something like that. What's up, Troy? I think Oracle is super interesting here because it should break and it's just not. I have 270 as a target, but when I looked into this, you're holding, right? But let's get rid of the pre and the post. And then on top of that, not only you're holding, but what I think super interesting about this is not only you're holding, but like even when you're supposed to break down, you're not. And the RSI is not really fully there yet. So I was looking at like even going here and just taking a look at like the MACD histogram. You're not really there yet, but you started yesterday flipping colors. So when that starts to flip, you tend to start forming a bottom. It might not be right away, and it takes like 4 hours to find out if you even have this or not, right? You have to wait for it. You have to wait till like 1:30. But when you start seeing them flip like that, and they're that deep, it's also the depth of it, right? You see how deep that is versus the others? Like you don't have anything like that on the MACD, like nothing, right? And it's an opposite inverse reaction of what you had. But like if you really go back through this, like you don't really have anything that has like a 5 reading, even close to it. Like nothing, right? I mean, there just isn't. So that usually means you're grossly overdone, right? I mean, even during the pandemic, you don't have anything like that. So it usually means you're grossly overdone. And then when they bounce pretty hard. So yeah, I'm watching that because I had a short on yesterday and I made something on it, but I'm like, man, this thing's not breaking anymore. So I have some real key levels at 270 and 260, but this is super interesting to me that you're not really breaking down. I find that super interesting. So, NVTS. What else you got? I don't know. I mean, how many times are you going to hit the same level and just get matumboed? It seems to be right there, right? So whoever bought there, they just went out. Sell, rallies for a little bit, hits that level, it can't get out fast enough, breaks out, comes back, retests, breaks out, can't get through it. So, that's kind of like one of those things like you first. So, ENVA. I'm not feeling that, man, at all, Mitch. I think uranium makes a lot of sense, but I don't know that there's like any real big trade there right now. Like it seems, like the real money's made. I think if you pull back, you got a real shot there. I don't know anything about Like I don't know anything about them at all, dude. They're eggs, right? Like I don't know anything about that. I've been watching these kinds of companies like Sprouts Farms, and these things are just absolutely imploding. I don't know why, but man, oh man, like they could not get out of this stuff fast enough. So, man, it's crazy how it goes, how it works, right? It takes months or years for this thing to get up there, and then bam, just falls apart. So, I don't know. See what happens with them. The other one is VITL, right? I mean, I don't know what's going on. Maybe the egg business is collapsing. It sure doesn't look good for the egg business. So, the whole space is moving again. Man, this is going to be such a wild day. But sometimes, like just out of nowhere, here you go. I mean, it's just going to be wild today, I think. If you can stay over that, that's going to be impressive. Seems to want to, doesn't it? Topical report accepted by U.S. NRC under accelerated review timeline. So it looks like what they needed to have happen happened. Announced that the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission has accepted review of its principal design criteria under an accelerated timeline. The NRC also proposed a reduced review schedule, reflecting the regulatory's efforts to modernize the licensing pathways for advanced reactors while maintaining world-class safety. Okay, so that's good. So they hit their hurdle and where they were going. So, you probably see some people get involved on that today that we're waiting for that to kind of make its move, or we're waiting for that to be, for them to invest in it that way, I guess is a better way to say it. Let's see what goes on there, see what happens. But that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know, Ricardo. I'm not feeling the whole egg business. Bum, bum. Yeah, I think the $70 salad trade's over. I don't really have a lot of thoughts on the AMR. I keep looking at this, trying to figure it out, because this one's on fire, right? I was looking at this yesterday, the AMR. I was looking at Arch. I think it's Zeus Steel. Hold on. I was looking at what's going on here, Olympic Steel, like trying to figure some things out. Cause like here's Cleveland Cliffs ripping, right? So you're like, okay, well, all right, I get that. And then you kind of find out why with what China did. But when we look at stuff like this, or, X, which they just got rid of. What I think so fascinating to me is like you start looking at like all those moving parts. I I don't know, man. Like there's something going on there because like look at BTU. Like they can't get in BTU fast enough. And it's super rare. It's like super rare to see like BTU doing this, like where they can't get in fast enough, where, you know, obviously this is the whole, coal thing, but um it's super rare to see these not trade together, right? It's like really, it's not normal. Like they usually trade together and BTU's got the worst management. So usually BTU suffers. So I don't know, man. I'm trying to figure that out, to be honest with you. But I was looking at it yesterday and I don't have the right answer for you yet. I mean, I wouldn't chase any of this stuff. Hello from Tokyo, EIS. You know, it doesn't seem like there's a care in the world there, does there, with that market? Like, not a care in the world. You go back to the October and you go there and you're like, okay, the market's doubled since then. You're up 100%. It's crazy to me. I don't really have, anything to say about it. I don't know why I'd buy it, why I wouldn't buy it, to be honest with you. You're breaking out, I don't think we're going to be swimming in world peace. I think it's a myth, quite frankly. I think it's time to like try to sell the story again, but it sure doesn't seem that way, does it? So, I don't know. DeepSeek again at it again. What they do, get another hamster and a couple paper clips. So I don't know. I don't really pay attention to anything that comes out of there, Julian. I'm just being blunt. Like I truly don't trust anything that I'm being told about any of that. None of that with Baba or any of it. Like I just don't trust it. I'm more than happy to miss out on it because I just don't want to come in one day and like Lucking Coffee or, the next Jack Ma goes on vacation for a month. So I just pass. I'm more on the short side of that stuff when it blows up. I had a decent short here, but, I always look at the financials and what they're telling me, and they're trying to hold in here. So, and you are holding that whole level, like right in here. So you are holding your trend line. So as long as these names hold, I think you're okay, right? I mean, you are holding those levels, and look at the whole space over there with Japan. Japan's holding fantastically. So there's not really a whole heck of a lot to do there. I don't think, but we'll see. Yeah, get right back down. That 120 is a mofo. I wonder if they do their secondary now because they knew they were going to get the approval. Now that they got the approval, do they do the secondary? Thinking they're going to get better terms. I mean, didn't they come out and say that sales are better than expected? Wasn't that their whole thing? I really am trying to understand the whole apparel space because we lost this one yesterday with the undercut, right? So that busted. And so like I'm in A&F and I'm in this for long term. And I was up to 101. I was up to here. Now I'm back down to this. And I'm just going through them. And they're not really like lighting the world on fire. Now Crocs broke out yesterday. And that might be worth watching this W. That might be worth paying attention to today, but I think you have to be super careful because now she's going to wear those shoes. So all the girls will go buy those shoes with the jeans, whatever. So I think there's that, but Carnival Cruise got hammered yesterday. And the reason that Carnival Cruise got hammered and then it took all these other names down with it, which it really shouldn't have, because Carnival Cruise's issue, unless they all borrow the same way, which maybe they do, but Carnival Cruise's issue was that their debt structure was insane. That when people looked at the debt of the company, that was really the problem there, where when they drilled into that they found out that like their interest payments went up. I think it was something like by like 600% or something. So, you have this support down here at like 28. But I don't know, man. Does that like rally and get it back together and go higher? Like, I don't know how it would, candidly, looking at it, but I would think that this thing gets absolutely smoked again today. Like, I can't imagine saying, no, we're going to ride this out. Like, good Lord. So I think that's why am I saying this? Because I think that's why Apparel came in, because people saw this move and thought it was consumer spending related, when really it was just their level of debt is freaking insane. And I think that's important, to have that disparity there on why it actually, did what it did. What's up, Tariq? DPRO is super interesting. So I already traded this this morning. I'm already out of the darn thing. The only thing I would say to you is I cannot get through this 850. I think it's like 856 level. And that goes back pretty far, doesn't it? If we go and take a look at it. So when we go back, we go back to that 856 level and some of these other levels, like that's like right in here, right? So like you can see some of this stuff like right there. So for whatever reason, like right in here, and we rejected that in here before, say it. So like if you go back to this, see those levels like in here and then all these wicks, like Wick City in there. So if you go back to that and then you go through it, like where you're at now, come on, work with me, not against me. And you watch what's happening like right in there right now. Okay. Say it. Bonk, ba-bonk, bonk, 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 ba-bonk, bonk. Like, nah, no, thank you. So I just blew it out. I bought it cheaper. I caught it early. Like I literally caught it like the first minute that the news hit. And then it starts flagging. And then from there, as it starts hitting that, I'm just selling into those spikes over and over again until I'm out of it all. If it broke out, cool, but it never did. So I just blew the whole thing out, made what I made, moved on. Can it get through there? Absolutely. Is today the day for me to try that? I'm not really feeling like today's my special day, Sean. So Meta's got to do some stuff. It's got to get it together here. Meta's got some issues here technically. So 750 is a real issue there. It's definitely an issue. So come on, you can work. I must have had news. So I don't know. I don't know what the news was at 8:30. Whatever it was good. Must got some new contract or something. Acting like absolute garbage, the past couple of days. But I don't know. I'm chasing things that are up $12 in this market. I mean, could it work? It can, it definitely can. I just don't know that I kind of have this you first mentality right now with this kind of stuff. So I don't know that that's something that I would be, chasing, but it depends on what the news is. I don't really think I know what that is already. Let's go take a look. I love when we do stuff together. Secured a $14 billion deal. Well, that's an enormous deal. Jesus. So yeah, I mean, if they got a $14 billion deal with Meta, yeah, that's freaking enormous. According to Bloomberg, it happened. Let me see something here. Yeah, I mean, how I would look at this is you don't want to break that. But if they did ink a deal like that, that's absolutely huge. It looks like they have inked it. I'm not really sure why it would come in on if it did ink a deal like that. Like that's definitely not in their numbers. But you want to stay above that level. And the other thing you'd probably want to do is just drop a VWAP on it and see what it does. Make sure you stay above that. That's for sure. That's what I would want to do. Guys, I'm going to have to jump here. I'm going to go get set up. What do I think drops the most? I think equities drops the most. I think equities get smoked. The way the market acted yesterday, if you go back and take a look at the market yesterday, and if you look at like this was our high, right? In here on the ES, and then you have this move later in the day. I believe it was like right around here when it got back up in this area. Like once they came out and said this one meeting was canceled, the market got smoked like 50 basis points, but you never got over it. You never lifted again. So once they said that, that was pretty much it. So that let me know that it's not factored in. Pardon me. So let me know that it's not factored in. I think that's going to be a real issue for the market. See if there's something else here I got to really hit. I don't tell you to go through the names. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. What do you think about TTD and NVO? I think that I'll make sure it goes to St. Jude's as always. Let me just see here. So I think that they're a host, quite frankly, with, I think you have GLP-1 that's going to come out with Teva now, right? So, and I'm surprised this thing's not rocking, and why it's not up more, I have no idea. But you're going to have a generic for this. So, I mean, the generic's just going to envelop their business. I mean, it's 58% of revenues is that drug. So I don't get that. TTD to me is like one of those names where when these things blow up, I don't really bottom fish. If I was going to, if you look at it from this perspective, like this is usually where it holds, like that kind of thing. So if I wanted to bottom fish, like I'm not really a bottom fish kind of guy with these kinds of names, but if I was, yeah, you flipped 100% because you're down in this range, right? And the RSI is nowhere near as low as it was in this area as it is here. And then the other thing that you got going for you is, see how you broke out from here over? See how you broke out that area and you popped over that area? So that's already telling you that you're going higher, right? It's telling you that you're probably going to here. Like it's not possible to be at that level and not have the same magnitude. The magnitude would have to change. So realistically, you're at least going to test up into, let's call it here, right? Like that 56, 64. Like I'd be shocked, I tell you, if you don't test that area. I think that makes the most sense. Something's going to give, dude. Like one way or another, something's going to give today. And it usually doesn't lean towards, buy equities. It usually doesn't lean in retail's favor. I'll leave it at that. It usually doesn't, but who knows? Well, that's super interesting, isn't it? Right? Because I agree with that. Like, because when I look at this kind of thing, like it is getting dumped, but does that mean, watch, it is getting dumped, but this is usually where you step into them. If you really look at it, like it's really where you start buying them. But you start looking at names like Costco, you're starting to get to those levels like, hey, this is where you get involved. So I don't think so, Tone. Yeah, that's kind of where my head is. Like, it's one of those things with, thanks, Jacob. I think it's going to push them all ahead one way or another. But, my goal is to get through today and see what this unwind there. But generics are generics. You know what I mean? But it was a really good sneeze. Thank you. You have a point, like, because I could see him saying, like, we have to protect the revenue streams of those guys that are making drugs. I mean, you have a valid point. I don't know. Is Teva the one you go after? Because Teva is Indian, right? No, Reddy's Indian. Teva is Israel, right? Teva's Israel. Reddy is Indian, right? Yeah, I think I'm right. I'm going to look it up now. Yeah, they're in Israel, so they're not going to have a problem. Reddy will have a problem. RDDY. Did we get rid of this name? We don't have this anymore. RDDY. They don't have Dr. Reddy anymore. Did they get rid of it? What is it now? Dr. Reddy. They have it on this exchange now. Okay. That was interesting. They used to be on the US too. Maybe it's under RDY. Yeah, there it is. So this one as well. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. All right, guys, I got to jump. Trade to win today.